Hello and welcome to Professor Natalie Gaines. I am so delighted to have so many of you following this channel. And to those of you who are new here, my name is Dr. Natalie Van Dusen, and I'm a professor of Scandinavian Studies at the University of Alberta. I've taught here since 2012. And during that time, the 12 years that I've been here, I have taught a variety of courses, but most frequently I teach Old Norse language, I teach Norse mythology and legends, and I teach a course on the Viking Age. I also teach courses on the sagas of Icelanders and Scandinavian folklore. But my own area of research expertise is Old Norse language, literature, and culture. And I'm really interested in how this world of the Viking Age and medieval Scandinavia has been adapted in various forms of popular culture, not least gaming. Um, I came to God of War through Gameology. I did an experts react video a couple years ago, and that led me to wanting to see the entire game. I was sort of given out of context snippets, and it was enough to make me realize I need to see what's going on here because this is really great stuff. And I've already gone through the entirety of 2018 and am now just starting off with Ragnarok, thanks to gameplay from Cleansed in Fire, who has supplied all of the game footage thus far, as well as a lot of the game footage from the last game as well. And yeah, tremendously grateful for that and playing on hard mode no less. So more impressive than I guess any gameplay I could ever produce. So it is an honor to be able to comment on this. So I wanted to begin by offering an apology. I wanted to apologize to Thor. I described Thor as being washed up, and that was my reaction. I suppose that even as someone who works directly with the source material, images of Thor from popular culture are really ingrained in my mind. Not only Marvel, but other ones as well. But, this is probably very consistent with what Thor might have looked like. And he very much is having, described as old Redbeard. And I also wanted to apologize because I described him as being potentially drunk, when in fact I have learned now that he is sober. And rewatching that scene, I can see it. And it actually breaks my heart a little bit, more than a little bit. And it really shows what a villain Odin is. And I plan to talk more about Odin because Odin is, I think, as much of a villain in a lot of ways throughout Norse mythology and in a number of sagas in which he features, as Loki can be. And he is a complex figure. He is a central figure in the mythology, and he is the head of the pantheon. And I've talked about this before, but he's also a god who's completely untrustworthy. And I really like how the game is playing with this. Somebody mentioned that he's being modeled off of like a mob boss, and I think that's brilliant. So I'm excited to see what they do with that. So without any further ado, let's continue onward. All right, we're going to give this new layout a go. Let me know what you think.
That's not the way, Father. Come on.
Where are we going?
The old temple in the Wildwoods.
Why?
It'll be easier to explain once we're there.
Did Odin say anything else while you were outside?
Yeah. He said he doesn't care about Jotunheim anymore. That the giants can keep their secrets. He's averted Ragnarok his own way. You think he knows all the giants are dead?
I'm more concerned that it no longer matters to him. What's he up to?
What happened here? So close to home.
Are raiders warring with one another now?
Those are not their arrows. Something else is out here.
More over here. and fresh. Did they all get in while the stave was down?
That, or Odin cocked up the protection spell altogether.
Almost to the bridge. Oh, guess the bridge gave out. Gonna need another path to the temple.
Why would you come out this way alone?
I had dreams calling me here.
Dreams.
Whoa, that one's still alive.
No. Look closer.
Hell Raiders now? Who's doing this?
Suppose it's too much to hope that an enemy of theirs would be a friend of ours.
Yeah, probably. Whoa! Could have warned me! Seriously, who'd be stringing up raiders like that?
Hold.
Whoa! Bloody hell, brother! What was that?
Something strong and dangerous. Be on guard.
Oh yeah, being all the way on guard.
Whatever it is, it works fast.
When did this bridge collapse?
Oh, a while ago. Wasn't me. Remember when I said there was someone who might help us get answers about the giants and Loki?
You mean Tyr? The old god of war in these lands, who is dead.
Well, for a dead man, Odin seemed pretty keen on seeing he wasn't found.
Right? He knows Tyr could unite the realms against him. Plus, Tyr was the giant's greatest ally. So...
Enough.
that pillar wasn't in the way last time I came. Like I was saying, Tyr was an ally to the giants. So he'd be on our side if we find him. And if anyone might know who I'm supposed to be, it's him. If he's out there, we've gotta find him. How can we not?
Those are many ifs, Atreus. What do you know?
You'll see soon.
What do you think?
Can't imagine what the lad's found, but he says he has evidence. We've come this far. Let's see it.
Many dead here.
We should keep moving.
Too late. Isn't it nice how Fimbulwinter wore down all the helpful magic we acquired? Yet somehow new terrors only flourish. That's a fun cue.
Kill. Winterman.
Yup, you got it. Wonder who they mean.
We climb.
On it.
Ah, he has gotten rather good at that. Yet another grisly scene.
Nista.
I've seen my share of bloodshed, but this is an awful lot for one more. Oh no! Brother! A stalker! On your guard, brother. I think we found our predator. Your shield's busted, brother. Just keep your feet moving, yeah? You're on fire, Kratos. It will pass. That just bloody tears it. Fimbulwinter Freya, the raiders, Thor and Odin barging in, and now stalkers preying in our woods. This is no safe haven anymore.
Father, the shield Mom gave you.
Thor damaged it. But now,
Perhaps the dwarves could take a look at it.
perhaps, later.
Come on, we can get in this way.
Why are we here, Atreus?
Okay. You remember all those shrines we found, telling the stories of giants? How the panel on the left would be their origin, and the panel on the right would be their fate?
Yes, we found many. I have seen them.
Well, there's more to them than we realized. Well, the collapsed pillar is new, but the shrine is just on the other side. There we go. Come on. You watching?
Well, that's new.
Come on.
Atreus, wait!
Yeah, I don't think he's waiting. What is this, lad? Where are we?
Somewhere only giants were meant to see. These shrines tell their stories to the world. But it turns out the real stories, the secret stories, those they kept here, inside. You remember the story of Skull and Hati, the wolf giants? Odin captured them because he thinks it'll help him control when Ragnarok starts.
I remember.
But that's not the whole story. See, this shows the giants setting Skull and Hati free.
They're free. Is this the past or the future?
Depends when you're looking at it.
Spoken like a giant.
See? The wolves are safe. Somewhere in Vanaheim.
Not the first place Odin would look, I suppose.
There they are, chasing the sun and moon.
Old habits.
Until, look, the moon gets stolen. Somehow.
Atreus.
See? Hati's got nothing to chase.
And they say celestial theft is a victimless crime.
Not totally sure who this is, but someone comes along and rescues the moon. And then, the moon blocks out the sun.
A total eclipse. Haven't seen one of those in 100 winters.
But then they chase an arrow, and things go back to normal.
What does any of this have to do with...
We're coming to that. Look, here's Ragnarok. Do you see who's leading the armies against Odin? That's Tyr. If he's gonna be around at Ragnarok, that means he's gotta be alive. Right?
Mimir, can this be?
Odin told me he killed Tyr, and he trusted me at the time, or so I thought.
What if he didn't kill him? What if he's just had him locked up somewhere all this time?
We are back to ifs. Enough.
Wait,
We are going home.
wait! I have one more thing to show you. It's just out here.
What is this?
Everything I found. Well, almost everything.
That's giant craftsmanship. You've been to Jotunheim again?
No, I found it in one of the other shrines.
Other shrines. How many have you visited?
Well, all of them? All the ones I could still get to in Midgard anyway. I don't know what it is, but it's important. Just like all this. When I was inside one of the shrines, I saw an image of Tyr imprisoned, but I couldn't tell where. There are hints inside the other shrines. They mention black smoke and the bleeding earth, but we can never figure out exactly. Yeah, Sindri's been helping me. Look, I talked him into it. It wasn't his idea. I just needed someone to watch my back.
Black smoke. Bleeding earth. Could the prison be in Muspelheim?
Unlikely. Odin's got no presence to speak of in the primordial realms. But the bleeding earth? Sounds like a mine, aye.
The realm of the dwarves, perhaps?
Svartalfheim, that's a good bet. Their mines did belch black smoke, and Odin's had his thumb on the dwarves for a very long time.
That's it then. Tyr's in Svartalfheim somewhere, imprisoned in a mine. So, what now?
Home.
This way.
Lad, even if we consider looking for Tyr, how have us getting to Svartalfheim? You know Odin's had all travel between realms locked up tight.
Sindri said he had an idea or two about that.
Sindri is full of ideas.
All right, so another excellent segment with a lot to talk about, so let's get into it. But before I do, I did want to address something that I forgot to mention and that was pointed out to me in the comments to the previous video about Thor's hammer. I didn't comment on the ability for the hammer to resuscitate Kratos, but that is significant, as somebody pointed out, because in the mythology, at least according to Snorri Sturluson, who wrote the Prose Edda, Thor's hammer did have that ability, at least to bring his goats back to life. So Thor had a chariot that was drawn by goats, and the idea was that he would slaughter those goats, eat the meat, keep the bones intact, and then kind of consecrate the bones using his hammer, and that they would come back to life. This all kind of serves as background for how he gets his two human servants, Thjalfi and Driskva, who Thjalfi is convinced by Loki, of course, to break one of those bones of one of the goats and eat the marrow, so that when Thor consecrates the bones, one of the goats isn't able to use its leg properly. And that's the way, kind of in compensation for that, he ends up getting Thjalfi and his sister Ruskva as servants. So that's where that's from. All right, for this one, there's a lot going on. I love the references to Odin's scheming, and Odin trying to find out about Ragnarok and kind of doing different things to try to alter its course. In the mythology, what Odin really does is more finding out what is going to come, or at least confirming his knowledge, because we have the we have the idea, according to the sources, that Odin knows what's going to happen. He knows Ragnarok is going to come, and he spends the majority of the mythology and pretty much every poem in the Poetic Edda that's pertaining to him, and most of the myths in the Prose Edda about him as well, have to do with him going out and gaining knowledge to prepare for Ragnarok. He doesn't really try to change the course of Ragnarok in the mythology, because Odin, maybe better than anyone else, knows that fate cannot be changed. So there's a little bit of a variation on kind of his approach to the inevitable fate of Ragnarok in this game. that I just wanted to mention. But this idea of Odin scheming, absolutely on brand for Odin. And again, that's something I want to come back to again when we encounter Odin, is his character and what he's like in the mythology. Because so far, I really like what they're doing with him. And yeah, he's a really complex character. So that's something that I look forward to going back to. There was a mention of him doing spells and magic. I've talked before about Saber, this kind of form of magic that Odin was said to have been taught by the Vanir and Freya specifically. So maybe we'll get some more of that. I like also that we are getting a little bit more on this kind of rivalry between Odin and Tyr. So I've talked in previous videos about how historically it seems like Tyr might have been kind of the main god of the Norse pantheon. But by the time the myths were written down, Odin had somehow taken over in popularity. There's a lot of different reasons for this. Tyr means god, and there's a lot of overlap between Tyr and Odin as well, in kind of a lot of different things that kind of make it seem as though there's kind of almost like a meshing together of the two by the time, and the traditions and stories about them having been combined a bit by the time we get the myths recorded that we have available to us. So basically, like, what I'm trying to say is that Tyr and Odin having a rivalry is something that makes a lot of sense given what we know in terms of the mythology and the fact that Odin, at some point prior to when the myths were recorded, surpassed Tyr in popularity or importance and became the head of the Norse pantheon. And Tyr remains this really shadowy figure who resembles Odin in some ways. And it's possible Odin took on some of Tyr's characteristics. A lot of his alternative names, like Hanging Tyr, things like that, Victory Tyr, so Hangatyr and Sigtyr, are names for Odin, and they incorporate Tyr's name. So it's not very clear, and it's something that if you want to read more on it, I've done a video before with some recommendations for further reading, and I will always recommend John Lindau, and his guide to Norse mythology if you want to know more. I also really loved seeing the difference between the journals, and the journals that were written by Atreus in 2018 and now by Kratos in Ragnarok. So you can absolutely see kind of the difference in style and writing style, and I think that was really clever how they did that. Okay, so obviously the big part of this episode had to do with finding those panels, or at least that area that Atreus was able to access that showed Skull and Hati, and kind of the role that Odin and Tyr were going to play respectively in Ragnarok. Um, so they talk about Odin trying to control Ragnarok. Once again, the mythology is more about him trying to find out because Odin knows he can't control it. But Odin trying to change fate kind of makes him an even more villainous figure, because changing fate is something that is well known that you're not able to do. So there was reference to a lot of different things that I want to show you from the mythology that are very well attested. Stealing the moon, a total eclipse, things going back to normal again, these are things that are based very, very solidly in the mythology. So I will be looking at a couple of texts and reading them to you and showing you the text here as well. The first is a poem called Grimnismal, or Grimnir's Sayings. And this is one of the many poems in the Poetic Edda in which Odin puts himself in physical danger. And in this case, he recites knowledge. He's kind of testing his knowledge. It says in verse 39, Skull is a wolf, or Skull, a wolf is called, who pursues the shining goddess to the protecting woods. And another is Hati. He is Hrothvitnir's son, who must run before heaven's bright bride. So a little bit unclear without larger context. A lot of these poems assumed that the people who were hearing them kind of had this larger context. And that's where Snorri really helps us out. He helps us be the informed audience that the audience of the Poetic Edda would have been. So in in Snorri's Edda, we do get a description of Skull and Hati as well. So in this one, and I've lost my page, we'll get back to it though. And here we go, Sun and Moon, the wolves. And this is in chapter 12 of the text, the part of Snorri's Edda that's known as Gylfaginning, or the deluding of Gylfi. And I will just read and put the text here as well. The sun moves quickly, and it is almost as though she fears something. She cannot go faster in her journey, even if she were afraid of her own death. Then High, so this is a Q&A between this king who's coming in and then Odin in disguise. High, Odin in disguise, answered, "It is not surprising that she moves with such speed. The one chasing her comes close, and there is no escape for her except to run." "Who is chasing her?" asked Gangleri. High said, "There are two wolves, and the one who is chasing her is called Skull. He frightens her, and he will eventually catch her. The other is called Hati Hrolfitnesson. He runs in front of her, trying to catch the moon, and this will happen." So that's what we know. So all of this very much based on what the source material tells us about these two wolves. But once again, it's taking that kind of perspective of, the Aesir not being the good guys in this story. The way that the mythology is told, the Aesir or the victors are the ones that are meant to come out on top, and all of the other characters are portrayed as antagonists. And that's one thing I think is really cool about what God of War does, is they really flip that narrative, and we see the Jötnar, who are the enemies of the gods, and are portrayed in a very negative way in the mythology. We're seeing things from their point of view, and I really, really like what they're doing there, because it is giving us this alternative narrative and this alternative version of the mythology from the perspective of the Jötnar. So I also thought it was interesting that they talked about Tyr being imprisoned, because in the mythology, Tyr plays a key role in imprisoning or binding the wolf Fenrir, and that's how he loses his hand. So for him to be imprisoned is a little bit of, I don't know, I don't want to say poetic justice, but it's a nod, I guess, to what he does to Fenrir, or maybe it's not, and I'm reading too much into it. Excited to get to Svartalfheim, and I will save talking about that until we get there, because I'm guessing we're going to get more. So as always, thank you for being here. Welcome if you're new. Thank you for being here. For those of you who have been supporting me, whether it has been for a few days or a couple of years, this is really a labor of love for me, and I enjoy coming on here and getting to watch this gameplay and react to it. And please leave any questions or comments you have in the chat. Make sure to subscribe, share with anybody you think might be interested, and I will talk to you next time.